name's Will Schusterick. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm three-time United States disc golf champion. Today I'm going to show you what's in my new Prodigy disc golf bag. I putt with 350 GPA 3s. I tend to keep 3 putters in the front pocket because I always like to have 2 to practice with. One that's a little bit less overstable for jump putts or longer putts, and then 1 main putter. I usually keep a main putter in my bag for about 6 to 7 months. And as soon as it starts to get really beat up, I usually switch that back and start jump putting and using it for longer putts. And then I'll add a brand new one into my bag and then start the process all over again. In the top part of the Prodigy bag, I usually keep at least 1 towel. I keep a caddy book for the tournament. And I'll keep 2 or 3 discs. During the USDGC, I tend to have more discs in my bag, so I use more storage. But I keep 3 PA3s up top. These 2 are 300 series. They're a little bit softer, a little bit better for the shorter shots or fan grip shots. This blue one is the newer one of the 2, and it'll hold a slight hyzer the entire way. If I turn it over, it will slowly fade back out. Compared to the purple one is going to hold a turnover if I started out on one. And for shorter shots, I can throw it with the fan grip and get it to go straight for about 250, 300 feet. I'm just making sure that this lands really flat, and when it comes to right to left slow fade, I go with this blue one. And I have this orange one in my bag. I use this orange one whenever I power grip and throw putter shots up to 380 feet. I use this disc for straight to slightly understable shots, something that really needs to fade for a really long time. A good example is hole 16 at Winthrop Gold. For my mid-ranges, I really try to keep it simple. I don't really have a lot of mid-ranges in my bag. For me, I typically like to have mid-ranges with a slight dome to them as my main mid-range, and something that's fairly stiff, especially in the summer. I change my plastic type depending on the conditions that I'm playing in, so when it comes to winter, I tend to switch it up to 400 series, but right now I have all 750 series in my bag. My main mid-range right now is this green 750 series M2. I've had this for probably 6 months in my bag. It's got a slight dome to it. It's fairly beat up, but it goes really straight and still finishes with a slight fade to the left. This is definitely my favorite mid-range to throw. The other M2 I have in my bag is this 750 series, and this one is a little bit more overstable than the green one in my bag. It's much flatter. It's a little bit easier to throw with sidearm because of that for me. I can throw this with a slight hyzer, and I know it's not going to flip up or turn at all to the right. It's a little bit better in the wind, and I usually try to keep 1 brand new, slightly overstable mid-range in my bag. And then I usually keep 1 main mid-range in my bag for other straight or shots that I can really manipulate. My straight to slightly turnover mid-range, the 750 M3. I've had this silver stamped M3 in my bag now for basically all year. I've hit a couple aces with this. It's fairly beat up. It's really flat. I can throw this with a little bit of a hyzer, and it's going to flip up to flat and then slowly fade to the right. This one's really good for slow, controlled mid-range shots. I don't really have to throw this one hard for it to go straight, so whenever it's a really low ceiling or something that I need to throw out wide to the left and bring it back in, this 750 series M3 is a really good disc for me. I really like the grip in the heat as well. And then I put a brand new 750 series M3 in my bag. I got this from my friend in Nashville. And this one is slightly more overstable, so I can throw this down a tunnel with a slight hyzer, and it's going to straighten up just a little bit and fly straight with a slow fade at the end. Compared to the M2, the M3 finishes a lot straighter, and sometimes it'll finish more to the right compared to the M2. And like I was saying earlier, I really favor the slightly more overstable mid-ranges because I know that I can put a little bit more power on them, and I know that they're not going to turn over as much. A couple more throwing putters that I have in my bag. I always keep a 300 series PA4. I think this is one of the most unique discs on the market just because you can buy 300 or 400 series PA4 out there on the market, and it's starting out as straight to fairly understable. And when it takes a couple months to beat up other putters to get them to fly that way, the PA4 is a great out-of-the-box hyzer flip putter. And personally, I don't think that there's a better short disc in the entire market right now, just because you can throw this from 100 feet and it lands really flat, or you can throw it from 150 and it's really good for slight turnovers. Even for short right to left shots, you don't really have to put a whole lot of angle on it. It'll hold a lot of whatever you try to release it with. I think a lot of people, if you have never tried Prodigy before, I think that the PA4 is a really good disc to try. At first, it's a little bit different in your hand because it's so unique, but it's really straight flyer and a great throwable disc. I keep 2 PA1s in my bag. This one is the first 750 series PA1 that I ever got. I think I got it last year around the World Championships in Oregon. And this one is actually really overstable. I keep this in my bag if it gets really windy or short putter shots that I need to go from left to right. But I really like the way that the 750 feels whenever it gets hot outside. In Tennessee, we deal with a lot of humidity, so my hands get really grippy and the disc get a little bit more flexible. The 750 series putters are really great for that matter. So if you guys live anywhere in the South or live somewhere that gets really hot and you have a problem with grip, you think your disc get a little bit too soft, really try the 750 series plastic. It's something to really check out. The other putter I keep in my bag is a 300 PA1. I actually just put this in my bag a couple days ago. I really like to keep a brand new PA1 in my bag just because I know that I can throw this and release it with a little bit of hyzer. And I know that as long as I don't get it to flat, this one stays on a hyzer ringer the whole time. So the difference between the 300 PA1 and 300 PA3 for me is that the PA1 is going to hold left a little bit longer than the PA3. The PA3, if I release it with a little bit of hyzer, will flip up a little bit to flat and then slowly fade at the very end of the flight. The PA1, if I can release it with a little bit of hyzer, it's going to go straight but never come up to flat at all. It's always just going to stay on that hyzer line the entire way. Getting into my hybrid discs, my H series, this is probably one of my favorite line of discs to throw, just because I really like the speed and the grip that each one really offers. I throw 2 750 series H3s. This pink one has probably been in my bag the longest, and it's a little bit more overstable than this orange one. This pink one I use for long sweeping hyzers, stuff that starts out to the right with a slight hyzer. I can actually turn it over just a little bit, and when it comes out of the fade, it actually fades for a lot longer than my D series or any other disc that I have in my bag. The H3 has a lot of glide, so whenever it's starting to fade out to the left, it doesn't typically want to come to the ground really fast. It wants to stay up in the air and really land with a little bit of a flatter angle compared to an X1. When it comes down, it wants to almost spike. So when I'm looking for a skip, or if I'm looking for a fade the entire way down a fairway, I'm definitely going to throw this pink H3. The other 750 H3 I throw is this 170 weight, 170 gram 750 H3, and this one is a little bit more beat up. It's really flat. For me, it feels great for sidearms, and it's also a really great backhand tunnel driver. I know that I can release this with a little bit of hyzer, and since it's a little bit lighter, I can get it to go really straight, and it will turn over just a little bit, and it'll always have a predictable fade at the finish. Compared to the F series, the H series has a little bit more movement in its flight. So whenever I rip this with hyzer, I expect it to fade a little bit more to the right compared to a mid-range, an M series or an F series. When I'm talking about the F series, I'm really looking for straighter lines. And when it comes to the H series, I'm looking at a much wider variety of angles. The last 2 H series I have in my bag are 2 H1s. This one I've had in my bag for a really long time. It's one of my favorite discs that I've ever thrown. I think I actually got this before the USDGC last year, and I think it was definitely key to my win last year at Winthrop. This one is really flat. I actually think it's 170 grams, so it's a little bit lighter. I can throw this really flat, maybe with a little bit of turn, but it doesn't have a super hard hook at the end. Just because it's a little bit lighter, I can get some more speed on it, but it always has a really predictable finish. One reason why I like to keep a slightly beat up, really overstable mold in my bag is because when I throw it at first and it goes really fast, then it's going to hold a straight line because it's really beat up. But once it slows down, it's typically going to hook pretty hard to the left, which makes it really predictable. So the other one that I have to complement that is a brand new 750 series H1. And this H1, I know that I can throw on a turnover or I can throw into a really big headwind, and it's always going to have a predictable finish at the end. For sidearm as well, I can throw it 250 feet, a little bit of turn or a little bit of hyzer, and I know that it's going to go out and then finish to the right. I think these are probably the most predictable discs in my bag, just because I know that they're always going to finish to the left. If you guys really like overstable plastic, I would really give the H1 a try, because I think it's probably the most overstable disc out there on the market. F series, I only have one F series in my bag for the USDGC this year. It's a 400 series F3. This one's been in my bag for a really long time, but I can release this with a little bit of hyzer, and I know it's going to go straight and then have a really soft fade at the end. Compared to the H3 for me goes straight and then it has a fade to where I'm looking for a skip, where I'm looking to finish towards the left. The F series is going to flip up to flat, then hold a straight to turnover line, and then really fade soft at the end. So when I'm looking for tighter fairways, or I'm looking to land really soft on the ground from about 400 feet away, I'm probably going to be throwing this blue 400 F3. Right, so the next line of discs I have in my bag is the D series. Two of the main discs I'm going to be throwing this weekend at Winthrop are going to be the 400 D1. The reason why I throw the 400 D1 compared to the 400G D1 at this tournament is because the 400 is a little bit softer, and when it tends to come down onto the ground, it likes to grab a lot more, so I'm not trying to get a lot of skips out there. These discs are really overstable. I can throw them into a headwind really hard, I can throw it with a slight turnover, or I can throw them for very predictable sidearms if I'm looking for something to skip a lot. But these two discs will probably be my most thrown discs throughout the entire tournament. I keep one lightweight D4 in my bag. It's 400G plastic. And the reason why I like to have this disc in my bag, I throw it on hole 4 at the Winthrop Gold Course, is I know that whichever angle I release it, I know that it's going to flip over, roll, and then turn over to its back. So this disc is 167 grams. A lot of people out there think that some professionals don't throw a whole lot of lightweight discs, but I really like to have a lightweight disc in my bag for a roller because I know that I can throw it really hard. I don't really need to manipulate my angle in my form. I know that I can just rip it really hard and it's going to flip over and then turn over, so it's actually a really predictable roller for me. Hole 4 sets up to be a low ceiling roller, so this is going to be the disc of choice for me on that hole. Two of my longest discs in my bag are the 400G D2, and I've had this green one with the white stamp in my bag since the Memorial this year, and it's really come in handy. I can throw it really far. I feel like I can throw it out there with a little bit of hyzer and give it some height, so whenever it turns over, it just holds this line the entire way. And just like I was talking about earlier with the beat up H1, since this D2 is a little bit beat up, but it's slightly more overstable mold, I know that I can throw it really hard and it'll turn over for just a little bit because it's beat up, but once it starts to slow down, the stability of the disc is going to bring it back. And I keep one brand new one. This one has a brand new flight characteristics, similar to my beat up one, but I know that I can give this one a little bit more power. I can turn it over just a little bit more, and I really have this in there for some predictable sidearms. I like to release it with a little bit of a hyzer and get it to go slightly flat and then fade back to the right. I don't really have a whole lot of snap on my sidearm, so these discs are really good because it's slightly beat up, has a lot of glide, and I think probably the longest flying disc on the planet if you're going to go buy one. I keep two other D1s in my bag, both 400G. This D1 is a little bit less stability than the other two I had. This one is a little bit more domey. It's a little bit more beat up. It has a little bit of road rash on the edge, but this disc comes in handy because I can turn it over slightly and it will hold just for a second, and then I know it's going to have a predictable fade. Also on hyzer shots, I can release it and I know it's going to get a lot more glide and distance. And this one, it would come in handy if it's not super windy out on the course this weekend. This D1 is really old. It's been thrown a lot. There's a lot of scrapes and stuff on it. This one really comes in handy whenever I'm looking for sidearm shots, something that I need to turn slightly out of my hand and it'll fade a little bit to the left, but I'll always have that predictable fade. This is another one of those discs that I keep a beat up version of an overstable disc, because at first it likes to start out to where it's turning, but once it slows down, it really has that predictable fade at the end because it's a D1. The final disc I have in my bag is a 750 X1. This disc, I tell a lot of people that if you like thumbers, if you like tomahawks, I think this is probably the best disc on the planet to throw for that. Every single one of the X1s that I've ever seen is extremely flat. Very fast, but also very overstable. It's definitely not made for the beginner type arm, but if you're looking for something that's really overstable and predictable in the wind, I think the X1 is definitely the disc. Compared to the H1, the X1 is a little bit faster. You're not going to be able to throw it as far because it doesn't have as much glide, and it's meant to be more of a utility disc compared to a driver. So if you're looking to go buy one and you're looking to get any type of distance, honestly, you're not going to get a whole lot of distance from the X1. You're going to get a lot of predictable fades, whether you throw backhand or sidearm. Tomahawk or thumber, I think, is one of the longest discs as well. But if you're looking for something really overstable, the X1 is definitely the shot. My name's Will Schusterick. Thanks for watching my In the Bag video, and go throw some Prodigy.